I want to make it very clear that the legacy media, which I enjoyed the company of today, have made a massive mistake and missed a chance to do some genuinely interesting journalism.
Social media influencer Andrew Tate firing back at the BBC and other mainstream media after his first sit-down interview following his incarceration on sex trafficking charges. Could Tate's words lead to more legal trouble for him? I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. Andrew Tate uses Twitter to get his message out to everybody, and now he's using it to tell the world what he thinks of the BBC and the interview that he granted to the organization. Tate posted a 13-minute video on Twitter Monday calling the mainstream media the Matrix. He fired back at those who look at his past comments about women as evidence that he is a misogynist and has trafficked women. He talked about the content he's created on the internet for several years.
Finding a clip from 2016, 8 years ago, finding a 4-hour-long podcast from 2016, ignoring all context, ignoring everything positive I say about men and women in the world, and taking a single sentence and trying to pretend that's my entire worldview is not the bombshell you think it is. Nobody cares.
Tate went on to say in his video that everyone understands jokes and satire. Tate's team recorded their own copy of the interview with Lucy Williamson of the BBC. It ran for nearly 39 minutes. That video has been posted online. The BBC's version of the interview, posted on YouTube, was edited. That question and answer session ran just under 9 minutes.
Satirical, sarcastic, and jokes. No. That's how you explain the comments you make.
For you to sit down.
Would you like to apologize for any of them?
For you to sit down, for you to sit down, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's easy. For you to sit down and say that one woman said that her boyfriend watched an Andrew Tate video and now he won't do the dishes.
Schools.
Or whatever your argument is.
Police.
And that I'm somehow the worst, most dangerous man in the world because I have a car. Is just disingenuous. If you actually watch the things I say, if you actually watch my comments about women, I've done long podcasts for hours long about females, talking about protecting for them, providing for them, how I believe a woman should be treated in a relationship.
Tate posted commentary about portions of the interview on Twitter. He claims the BBC is a bunch of extremists who are damaging the minds of young men with views that he believes isolate men or punish them for wanting to be successful.
No young man below the age of 30 has any interest in what the BBC or the legacy media say. They don't care and they don't watch it, unless I appear on there. So when I sit across from a reporter who says that having a nice car makes you a misogynist, it's disingenuous.
And also financial success
correct.
With a Bugatti and a cigar, but it comes with a side order of misogyny.
How does having a Bugatti and a cigar come with misogyny?
Because it's all mixed together in what you teach.
I find that to be extremely dangerous rhetoric.
Tate said moving forward, he will only sit down for interviews with the mainstream media if they pay him and give him chocolate.
If you are from the Matrix, you will give me $50,000 in advance, which will be donated to Tate Pledge, which will be used to feed children in war-torn countries. And you will also bring a box of chocolates to my gate, which I will ingest as I listen to your Matrix propaganda and destroy you.
Romanian officials who are seeking an indictment against Tate and his brother for charges of organized crime, rape, and sex trafficking took issue with Tate's comments to the BBC. A source told the UK Sun that Tate spread bad words about them as they investigated him and his brother. So could Andrew Tate's words have legal consequences for him? Joining me to discuss this is Professor Eugene Volokh. He is a professor of First Amendment law at UCLA School of Law. Professor Volokh, welcome to Sidebar.
Very much my pleasure.
Andrew Tate is incredibly popular. I mean, he's a social media influencer, kickboxer. He has a huge, tremendous following around the world, really, and in the UK and the United States. The prosecutor's office in Romania didn't really like what he had to say. A source told a newspaper, "It is really outrageous to see Mr. Tate spread such bad words on the Romanian authorities when there is an investigation for over 5 months with many pieces of evidence. It is simply just not normal for Mr. Tate to give such an interview with so many conditions to BBC, like he was an outstanding VIP and not, in fact, a person investigated with his brother for several crimes. But I hope the laws and the pieces of evidence will have the final word in this case, from which Mr. Tate tries to do a sort of show. The BBC says that it did not agree to any real conditions. Topics were maybe discussed as a courtesy in advance. He was not provided a list of questions. So your response to what this source in the Romanian government, or at least the prosecutor's office, what they're saying to this newspaper about how it's so outrageous for him to grant this interview?
I can't speak to Romanian law. I can say that outrageous is not a legal standard, generally speaking, with a few exceptions. In American law, right? So is it outrageous as a matter of ethics? I can't. I mean, that's not my expertise. I will say that in most countries, it's generally thought if you're being investigated by a prosecutor's office, it's generally thought unwise to publicly badmouth them, generally speaking. It's one thing to say, I'm innocent and this is all a big mistake. It's another thing to get them even angrier at you than they already are. This having been said, it's, at least in America, it's not like it's illegal to badmouth the prosecutor's office. It just might not be a great idea. Again, I can't speak to Romanian law or English law if somebody were to sue him in English courts. And of course, my sense is that the criminal charges he's facing are much more serious than any possible libel lawsuit. I don't think that's the thing that's most preying on his mind right now, is the risk of being sued for libel. But again, in America, speech sharply criticizing the prosecutor's office is constitutionally protected, even if, again, it might not be the smartest move.
Any final thoughts on this topic? I mean, do you believe Andrew Tate saying that this is all a sham, that basically these allegations have no merit? Are these things that could ever be really described or believed to be libelous or defamatory? Because he's speaking his mind about allegations that have been made against him.
Well, in some situations, it might be. Let's say I'm accused of some crime by John Smith. And I say, John Smith is a liar. In fact, he's in a conspiracy to create forged documents that implicate me in the crime. Now, I'm accusing him of a crime at that point, and he could sue me for libel. If he's a public figure, he'd have to show that I knew the statements were false or likely false. If he's a private figure, it might be enough if he shows that I'm negligent. The fact that I am a criminal defendant who's trying to defend myself in public doesn't, as a purely legal matter, give me complete immunity from libel law. On the other hand, if I don't personalize it, if I just say this whole process is a sham, this whole process is unfair to me, and even if I say the government is out to get me, well, then at least under American law, yeah, I am entitled to say that. Although, again, it might be, it might look bad for me in various ways. One of the things that people might keep in mind is while the trial as to their guilt is supposed to focus on did they commit the crime or not, and not what did they say afterwards about the prosecution. The decision about sentencing may turn in part on how they reacted to the allegations. So often, for example, people get some break at sentencing. They get a slightly reduced penalty if they can show that they're really remorseful, let's say, that they've accepted responsibility. And if they spent much of the time before the trial saying, no, I'm completely innocent, and what's more, this is all just a vast conspiracy to take me down, that might make it harder for them after the fact to say, no, I've accepted responsibility. I'm really remorseful. So these things can sometimes play a role. And of course, if he said something incriminating during the interview, which I don't know that he did, but sometimes people do say that, well, that could be used as evidence against him. But if the question is simply, is it illegal to condemn the government for going after you? No. Do you have complete legal immunity if you're condemning particular people and accusing them of going after you, also no. Because in principle, you might be sued for libel or slander if you are making accusations about particular people, whether you're accusers, by the way, or prosecutors or others.
So bottom line, BBC, Romanian authorities, based on whatever libel laws govern their country, it doesn't seem like you believe there would be much of a case for him to be in trouble civilly for his words.
Well, there would be not much of a case for him to be in trouble civilly in American court. Again,
Sure.
I can't speak to what would happen in a Romanian court or an English court.
Well, Professor Volokh, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it, and we hope you'll come back.
Very much my pleasure. Anytime. All the best.
And that's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. You can listen to and download Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcasts. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy, and we will see you next time.